Lily was a small girl with bright, curious eyes and hair the color of sunshine. But what made Lily truly special was her best friend, Shadow. Shadow wasn't just any dog. He was a fluffy, golden retriever with a heart as big as a house and a brain that seemed to understand everything. Lily and Shadow were inseparable. They played in the park, shared secrets under the big oak tree in Lily's backyard, and even seemed to communicate without words. Shadow wasn't just a pet. He was Lily's confidant, her protector, and her furry partner in crime. He could fetch anything, sit perfectly still, and even roll over on command. But what made Shadow truly extraordinary was his ability to understand Lily's secret signals. A slight tap of her foot, a gentle tug on his leash, or a subtle scratch behind his ear, each movement meant something special to Shadow. He paid close attention to Lily, always eager to please and ready for whatever adventure came their way. Lily had trained Shadow using positive reinforcement and lots of love. She taught him tricks, but more importantly, she taught him to listen and understand. Their bond was so strong, it felt like they could read each other's minds. Little did they know, this special connection would soon be put to the test in a place far from the sunny park and cozy backyard, a courtroom. The courtroom was a scary place. It was big and echoey with tall ceilings and serious-looking people everywhere. Lily held tightly to Shadow's leash, feeling a shiver run down her spine. Her mom and dad sat at a long table, looking worried. Usually, they were always smiling and laughing, but today their faces were drawn and pale. They were in court because Mr. Peterson, the baker from down the street, said they had stolen cookies from his bakery. Lily knew her family would never do such a thing. Her mom baked the best cookies in the world. Why would they need to steal any? But Mr. Peterson insisted he saw them taking the cookies, and now they had to prove they were innocent. Lily didn't understand all the grown-up words being used, but she understood the worry in her parents' eyes. She knew they were in trouble and she desperately wanted to help. Shadow seemed to sense her anxiety. He nudged her hand with his wet nose and looked up at her with his big, brown eyes, as if to say, "Don't worry, Lily, I'm here." That small gesture gave Lily a little bit of courage. She knew that with Shadow by her side, maybe, just maybe, they could get through this. She squeezed his leash tighter, a silent promise to do everything she could to help her family. The trial went on, but it wasn't going well. Mr. Peterson, the baker, kept saying he was sure he saw Lily's mom put the cookies in her bag. He even remembered the kind of cookies. Chocolate chip, Lily's favorite. Lily's mom tried to explain that she was at home baking that day, but Mr. Peterson wouldn't listen. He said he had good eyesight and he was absolutely certain. Lily felt a knot forming in her stomach. The lawyer for the bakery was asking her dad lots of questions and her dad was starting to look flustered. Lily knew her dad was a good man, but he wasn't very good at arguing. She wished she could stand up and tell everyone the truth, but she was too scared to speak in front of so many people. She glanced at Shadow, who was sitting patiently at her feet. He seemed to sense her distress. He licked her hand again, a silent reassurance. Lily squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, trying to think of a way to help. She knew her family was innocent and she couldn't bear the thought of them being punished for something they didn't do. The weight of the situation felt heavy on her small shoulders. She had to do something. She just didn't know what. The baker's words echoed in her ears, chocolate chip. Chocolate chip. It was like a bad dream. Shadow lay quietly at Lily's feet, a golden island of calm in the sea of her worry. He was usually full of playful energy, but in the courtroom he was a model of good behavior. Still, Lily's leg bounced nervously. She couldn't stop it. Tap, tap, tap against the floor. It was a signal, a small one, but a signal nonetheless. She didn't even realize she was doing it at first. But Shadow did. His ears perked up slightly. He knew that a light tap meant focus. It was a signal she used when they were practicing tricks, a way to get his attention. Now, unintentionally, she was telling him to be extra alert. Then, as Mr. Peterson continued to describe the cookies in great detail, Lily started to fidget with Shadow's leash. A gentle tug. That was another signal. Listen carefully. She usually used it when they were out on walks and she wanted him to pay attention to a specific sound. A bird chirping, a car approaching, anything that might be important. Lily wasn't consciously trying to signal Shadow. Her anxiety was just bubbling over, expressing itself in the subtle movements she had taught him. But Shadow, ever the attentive companion, was receiving her messages loud and clear. He was ready to act, he just needed a clear command. And Lily, without realizing it, was about to give him one. The pressure was building and she was on the verge of a breakthrough guided by her subconscious and the unwavering loyalty of her best friend. Judge Thompson was a man of routine. Every morning, he woke up at 6 a.m., ate a bowl of oatmeal, and read the newspaper before heading to court. He believed in order and fairness. He listened carefully to every case, always striving to make the right decision. He had seen many things in his courtroom over the years, but a dog was definitely a first. He had allowed Lily to bring Shadow because he could see how much comfort the dog provided her. And Shadow was, indeed, remarkably well behaved. He lay still, barely moving a muscle. But Judge Thompson was also very observant. He noticed the little girl's leg bouncing, the slight tugs on the leash. He saw the subtle communication between Lily and her dog. At first, he dismissed it as nervous energy. But as the trial wore on, he became increasingly intrigued. He noticed that the movements seemed to coincide with specific points in Mr. Peterson's testimony. Was it possible that the dog was reacting to something the baker was saying? It seemed far-fetched, but Judge Thompson had learned long ago never to dismiss anything out of hand. He decided to pay closer attention to see if there was more to this than met the eye. He adjusted his glasses and leaned forward, his gaze fixed on Lily and her unusually perceptive dog. The judge felt a strange feeling. Something big was about to happen. Mr. Peterson was describing the moment he supposedly saw Lily's mom taking the cookies. She reached into the display case, he said, his voice confident, and grabbed a bag of chocolate chip cookies. A big bag filled to the brim. Lily's leg bounced faster. Tap, 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 tap. And then, without even thinking, she gave Shadow another signal. A tiny scratch behind his ear, almost imperceptible. It was their signal for speak, a command she used when they were playing games at home. It wasn't a loud bark, just a small, quiet woof. The sound was barely audible, but in the silent courtroom it was like a thunderclap. Everyone turned to look at Shadow, including Judge Thompson. Mr. Peterson stopped talking, his mouth hanging open in surprise. Lily gasped, her eyes wide with shock. She hadn't meant to give the signal. It had just slipped out, a reflex born of her anxiety and her deep connection with Shadow. The courtroom was frozen. All eyes were on the golden retriever who had dared to interrupt the proceedings. And then Judge Thompson spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Young lady," he said, looking directly at Lily, "did you tell your dog to do that?" The moment of truth had arrived. Lily knew she had to explain. But how could she possibly explain what had just happened? Lily's heart pounded in her chest like a drum. She stammered, I didn't mean to, Your Honor." She looked down at Shadow, who seemed to be waiting patiently for her next instruction. Judge Thompson raised an eyebrow. "Didn't mean to? Explain yourself, young lady." Lily took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. Shadow is trained to respond to certain signals," she said, her voice barely a whisper. He knows what different touches and movements mean." Mr. Peterson scoffed. "Trained? It's just a dog." Judge Thompson held up a hand, silencing the baker. "Let the girl speak." He leaned forward, his eyes focused on Lily. "So, you're saying that your dog reacted to something specific that Mr. Peterson said?" Lily nodded, her cheeks flushed. "Yes, Your Honor. He is trained to bark when he hears a certain word or phrase. It's a game we play." She hesitated, unsure if she should reveal the whole truth. But she knew she had to be honest. "He's trained to bark when he hears the word brim." A hush fell over the courtroom. Judge Thompson looked thoughtful. "The word brim," he repeated slowly. "And Mr. Peterson used that word just before the dog barked?" He looked at the court reporter. "Read back Mr. Peterson's last statement, please." The tension in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Everyone waited with bated breath to hear what the baker had said. The court reporter cleared her throat and began to read. She reached into the display case and grabbed a bag of chocolate chip cookies. A big bag filled to the brim. Judge Thompson listened intently. He frowned. "Mr. Peterson," he said, turning to the baker, "is that exactly what you saw?" Mr. Peterson puffed out his chest. "Absolutely, Your Honor. I remember it perfectly." A big bag filled to the brim with chocolate chip cookies. Judge Thompson nodded slowly. "Very well. But just to be absolutely sure, Mr. Peterson, would you mind repeating your testimony about that specific moment? Try to recall every detail as accurately as possible." Mr. Peterson looked a little confused, but he agreed. He cleared his throat and began again. "Well, as I said, she went to the display case. And then she reached in and grabbed a bag." He paused, thinking. A bag of chocolate chip cookies, yes. A big bag. He hesitated again. A big bag that was pretty full. Judge Thompson's eyes narrowed. He had heard the subtle change. The difference between filled to the brim and pretty full was small, but it was significant. He glanced at Lily, who was watching with wide, hopeful eyes. Could this small detail be the key to unlocking the truth? He decided to press further. Mr. Peterson, he asked, his voice carefully controlled. Are you absolutely certain the bag was filled to the brim? Mr. Peterson hesitated again, looking uncomfortable under Judge Thompson's intense gaze. Well, Your Honor, he mumbled. I might have exaggerated a little. It was a long time ago. I just remember it being a pretty full bag. Judge Thompson leaned back in his chair, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. So, you are admitting that your initial statement, that the bag was filled to the brim, was not entirely accurate? Mr. Peterson squirmed. Well, not entirely, no. Judge Thompson turned to Lily's parents. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, he said, his voice softening slightly, is there any reason why Mr. Peterson's description of the cookie bag being filled to the brim would be significant? Lily's mom stood up, her voice trembling slightly. Yes, Your Honor. I bake cookies for the school bake sale every month, and I always use special bags. If the bags are filled to the brim, then they can't close properly. They have to be pretty full, so they close with a little twist tie. Judge Thompson nodded slowly, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. So, if Mr. Peterson saw a bag filled to the brim, it couldn't have been one of your bags? Exactly, Your Honor. Lily's mom exclaimed, relief flooding her face. It couldn't have been. Judge Thompson turned back to Mr. Peterson, his expression stern. Mr. Peterson, he said, are you now prepared to admit that you may have been mistaken about the cookies? Mr. Peterson shuffled his feet, looking more and more uncomfortable. Well, Your Honor, maybe I was mistaken. Maybe it wasn't Mrs. Miller who took the cookies. It was a busy day and I see a lot of people. Judge Thompson fixed him with a stern look. So, you're now saying you're not sure who took the cookies? Mr. Peterson wrung his hands. That's right, Your Honor. I'm not sure. The judge sighed. Mr. Peterson, you have wasted the court's time and caused unnecessary distress to this family with your inaccurate testimony. I strongly advise you to be more careful in the future. He then turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he said, in light of Mr. Peterson's admission that he is no longer certain who took the cookies, I am directing you to find the defendants, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, not guilty. A collective sigh of relief swept through the courtroom. Lily's parents embraced, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Lily jumped up and down, clapping her hands. She had done it. She and Shadow had helped to prove her family's innocence. Judge Thompson smiled faintly, a rare sight in his courtroom. He looked at Lily and Shadow, a newfound respect in his eyes. He had come to court expecting a routine day, but he had witnessed something truly extraordinary. The power of a little girl's love for her family and the unwavering loyalty of her best friend. It was a lesson he wouldn't soon forget. Judge Thompson approached Lily after the court had adjourned. Young lady, he said, his voice surprisingly gentle, I must confess, I was skeptical at first. But you and your dog have shown me that even the smallest detail can be important. And that sometimes the most unexpected sources can reveal the truth. He bent down and scratched Shadow behind the ears. You're a very clever dog, he said, and you have a very clever owner. Lily beamed, her heart swelling with pride. Thank you, Your Honor, she said. Shadow is the best dog in the world. Judge Thompson straightened up and smiled, a genuine smile this time. Well, I wouldn't go that far, he chuckled, but he certainly made a believer out of me. I never thought a dog could help solve a case. It seems I am always learning new things. He paused, then said, You know, that small detail, filled to the brim. It was that detail that made me wonder. As Lily and her family left the courtroom, she couldn't stop smiling. The scary day was over, and her family was safe. She looked down at Shadow, who wagged his tail happily. She knew that their special bond had saved the day. She gave him a big hug. Good boy, Shadow, she whispered. You were amazing. And Shadow, in response, licked her face. A silent promise of unwavering loyalty and endless love. The events of the day will always bind them together. That evening, Lily's family decided to celebrate. They went to Lily's favorite pizza place, a small, cozy restaurant with checkered tablecloths and the smell of garlic and tomato sauce hanging in the air. Lily ordered a pepperoni pizza with extra cheese, and Shadow got a special treat from the owner, a big juicy bone. As they ate, Lily's dad raised his glass. To Lily and Shadow, he said, his voice full of gratitude. "You saved us today. We're so lucky to have you." Lily's mom smiled. "We always knew Shadow was a special dog," she said, "but we never realized just how special." Lily blushed, feeling a warm glow spread through her chest. "He's the best," she said, looking at Shadow, who was happily gnawing on his bone. After dinner, they went to the park, Lily's favorite place. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the trees and the grass. Lily took off Shadow's leash, and he ran free, chasing squirrels and barking with joy. Lily laughed, watching him play. She thought about the day's events. The scary courtroom, the worried faces of her parents, Mr. Peterson's accusations. It all seemed like a distant dream now. Thanks to Shadow, everything was back to normal. She knew that their bond was stronger than ever. And she was grateful for her furry best friend, who had proven that even a small dog can make a big difference. They sat down on the bench, watching the sunset. The sky was like a painting, full of beautiful colors. And Lily knew with absolute certainty that everything was going to be okay. The next morning, Lily woke up to sunshine streaming through her window. She stretched and yawned, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in days. Shadow was curled up at the foot of her bed, wagging his tail as soon as he saw she was awake. "Good morning, Shadow," Lily said, reaching down to pet him. "Ready for a new day?" Shadow barked happily, as if to say, "You bet." After breakfast, Lily and Shadow went for a walk in the park. Everything seemed brighter and more vibrant than usual. The birds were singing, the flowers were blooming, and the air was fresh and clean. As they walked, they saw Mr. Peterson, the baker, standing near the playground. He looked sad and apologetic. "Lily," he said, his voice low, "I wanted to say I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I wasn't sure who took the cookies, and I shouldn't have accused your family." Lily looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "It's okay, Mr. Peterson," she said. "Everyone makes mistakes. Just try to be more careful next time." Mr. Peterson smiled gratefully. "I will," he said. "And maybe I could bake you and Shadow a special batch of cookies as a way of saying I'm sorry." Lily grinned. "That would be great, Mr. Peterson." And so, the day ended on a happy note. Lily and Shadow had not only saved her family but had also taught Mr. Peterson a valuable lesson about honesty and the importance of being sure before making accusations. And they all lived happily ever after. Well, at least until their next adventure. Weeks later, Lily received a special letter in the mail. It was from Judge Thompson. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside, written in neat, precise handwriting, was a note. "Dear Lily, I wanted to thank you again for your help in the cookie case. Your quick thinking and Shadow's cleverness were truly remarkable. You taught me a valuable lesson about the importance of listening to even the smallest voices and trusting in the unexpected. I have enclosed a small token of my appreciation. I hope you and Shadow enjoy it. Sincerely, Judge Thompson." Enclosed with the letter was a gift card to Lily's favorite bookstore and a dog toy shaped like a gavel. Lily gasped with delight. She couldn't wait to go to the bookstore and pick out a new adventure. And she knew that Shadow would love his new toy. She decided to write Judge Thompson a thank you note. She carefully chose her words, wanting to express her gratitude for his kindness and his belief in her and Shadow. She also drew a picture of Shadow wearing a tiny judge's wig. As she sealed the letter, she smiled. She knew that she and Shadow would never forget their day in court. It was a scary experience, but it had also shown her the power of their bond and the importance of standing up for what is right. And she knew that, together, they could face any challenge that came their way. Their future was bright, filled with many more adventures. The best part about their future was that they will be together, side by side. From that day forward, Lily and Shadow were local heroes. People in town would stop them on the street to congratulate them. Mr. Peterson even named a new cookie after Shadow, the Shadow Swirl, a delicious blend of peanut butter and chocolate chips. It quickly became the bakery's most popular item. Lily and Shadow continued their adventures, always together, always ready to help those in need. They volunteered at the local animal shelter, walking dogs and playing with cats. They visited the elderly at the nursing home, bringing smiles and laughter to their faces. They even started a program at school to teach other kids about responsible pet ownership. And every night, before going to bed, Lily would read Shadow a story, whispering secrets and dreams into his furry ear. She knew that their bond was unbreakable, a special connection that would last a lifetime. Their story became a legend, a reminder that even the smallest among us can make a big difference. that courage, loyalty, and love can overcome any obstacle. And that sometimes the truth can be found in the most unexpected places with the help of a little girl and her very special dog. The end.